Well, it's been called a race for space following COVID lockdowns, and it's pushed house prices in the Somerset town of Taunton up 22% in the last year, while the London Borough of Westminster is at the other end of the scale, with properties now 7% cheaper. Now, nowhere in London appeared in the top 20 of the annual house prices index from leading building society. Well, the property expert Henry Pryor joins us now live for more on this. So, Henry, if you're going to be trying to buy a house in Taunton, you might struggle, eh?
Kamali, I'm afraid you might, indeed. And if you weren't lucky enough to find the deeds to your new home in Taunton in your Christmas stocking or under your Christmas tree, then clearly 2022 is going to be a tough year for home buyers. Celebrations, of course, from people who actually live in Somerset and in this particular hotspot. But it's been an extraordinary year where we've seen house prices shifting in some areas by perhaps on average £30,000 across the country. This is a result of the race for space, as some have dubbed it, but fundamentally a change in what people have wanted as a result of the COVID pandemic. People need their homes now to do different things. They need to be able to educate their kids. They need to be able to work from home. They need to be able to have space with and when they are locked down. And that has changed an awful lot of people's priorities. And as a result, whilst the strapline we hear from Phil and Kirsty frequently of location, location, location remains absolutely the bedrock of the housing market, unfortunately, it's those locations that have, for many people, now changed.
Yeah, and I guess for those who can live and work from home in Taunton, it's pretty nice. But if you work around big cities, it might not be the same. Are these? Can we tell from the data whether these are new homes? Because I know that there is obviously a shortage of new homes being built for people.
Well, there is indeed. There remains a massive housing crisis across the country, in some part down to the fact that we've stopped building enough homes. Political parties of all colours have tried to and aspired to build up to as many as 300,000 new homes every year in order to try and soak up the demand that we've had over the last 2 or 3 decades. But I'm afraid we've almost had more housing ministers in Westminster, 22 since the year 2000, than we have in terms of success of building new homes. These figures, these prices reflect not just new build homes, but second-hand homes as well. New build homes, of course, trade traditionally at a small premium, because of the fact that they're brand new, a bit like a new car. When you drive that off the forecourt, it drops in value slightly. Likewise, a new home, you should expect to pay a little bit more for that because, of course, you're getting something that's brand new and should be lasting that much longer. But fundamentally, what we've got here is probably an indication of just how cheap money has been to borrow and how accessible it has been for those who are lucky enough to be able to afford to get a mortgage. With interest rates now still well below 1%, which is as low as they've been since 2007, the last time that they were at 5%. Of course, that means that people who can borrow that money can borrow more money, compete with one another, and that, as a result, pushes up prices for a finite resource.
And as we said, London prices, especially in the Borough of Westminster, some 7% cheaper. Is it the fact that house prices are falling in London, or they're just not going up as much as we expected them to go up, as they normally do go up?
Well, I think it's a bit of a rebalance, Kamali. What we're seeing, what we have seen over 2021 is house prices around the coast, for example, not just in the West Country, but in North Norfolk and parts of the northeast and northwest of the country, levelling up, as the expression we've come to hear and know well, as a result of which areas that have traditionally done incredibly well, like the southeast and London in particular, perhaps haven't seen the kind of increases that they've seen elsewhere in the country. And that's probably going to continue into 2022 until we start to see an end either to ultra-low interest rates or a rebalancing of the economy more broadly.
And finally then, Henry, just tell us, I mean, you've looked at this data, where are we going to find the best value sort of house in terms of location, price and size?
Well, it's always tempting to try and fall for the where should we buy, where are we going to see the biggest rises in values across the country in the next 12 months. I've made a career of getting it wrong, but I suspect that if we were to look and to continue to look away from the major conurbations and the major cities as people discover and are allowed to continue to commute perhaps to their place of work less frequently during the week, that's going to push up demand in those rural areas. And as a result, I think it's those areas that are going to see perhaps the greatest increases through 2022.
OK, Henry Pryor, career getting it wrong, but you got it right for us this morning. Thank you so much for being with us.